Good morning to you. Good morning. Surprise, surprise. No write-ups, no lead-ins, nothing. We're just here. So I'll give it a couple of minutes here. This topic came to me. I wasn't on Thursday, needed a little break. Heavy week with allergies and all those kind of things, and so I needed a bit of a break. But we are here, and I don't typically do this, but I'm actually give another minute or so. Hope everybody is well. Had a great week. Even with taking allergy medicine, I'm telling you, man, it wiped me out a couple of days this past week, to the point where finally, which I have done in the past, I actually doubled up on the allergy medicine just to knock them symptoms out. So I'm obviously feeling better now. But we weren't here Thursday. We're here today, and I'll give it another 30 seconds or so. We'll kick off. You can see the title. No write-up on this one. We're just going to go at it. But I get the feeling that this will prove to be a very intense topic, very intense subject matter that will be watched back quite a bit. All right, that being said, at least we're here way longer than I want to be. Let's get into this. You can see in the description, and I'm pulling it up so I can see and be able to respond a little bit just to comments if there is any. But the write-up says, single, unhealthy, but wanting to date. Is there an ethical responsibility to reveal it? Now, we're going to deal with three particular areas of unhealthy, but the obvious one is physically unhealthy. And those who know me, I don't mind being transparent. I don't mind sharing my own situation. I live my life very, very precisely and intentionally. So I don't mind sharing things that I'm dealing with from time to time. Single, unhealthy, but wanting to date. One of the things that comes out in my conversations with people, of course, oftentimes is their communication experiences with others who express some interest in them. And it's always fascinating because I never stop to think about some of the things that may be said, because we're always talking about the interrelationship between the two people, right? What he said, what she said, how did that go over? Is there a possibility of a relationship? On and on and on and on. So what we never stop to think about is the other factors of a person's life, or all the factors of a person's life. And so I want to cover three areas that I think, particularly for those of us who are above the age of 40 and single, and for those of you who are looking to date, that you really need to think about, that you really need to consider. And unhealthy is huge, and it's bigger than we even think. But let's start with the obvious. When we say unhealthy, how about physical health? Now, I've talked about this openly. I have high blood pressure, hypertension. I've dealt with it since 2014, going into 2015. Won't get into all the factors as to how it came to be. Doesn't really matter at this point. Needless to say, so that's what several years ago now, at least almost 7 years ago, that we've been dealing with it. 6 for sure. Pronounced, where went to the doctor, and the doctor confirmed what I had already began to realize was possible. I looked up on WebMD my symptoms, and it said, okay, high blood pressure, hypertension, and then I went to the doctor and got it confirmed. It's in my family, I believe, on both sides, so wasn't completely shocked by it, and have done what I need to do since. I am happy to report that I haven't been on high blood pressure medicine for 4 years. Wow. Amazing. 2017, so 4 years. 4 years. And doing well, no residual effects. Of course, it's the silent killer. Now, I mention my own health situation because I want to bring to bear something that we need to think about. Not just are we compatible in terms of our ideology, in terms of the ideas, the philosophy by which we live our lives, but health. So now I'm sharing this openly before potentially 900 and some odd accounts. Some of these are duplicate accounts or people forgot their passwords and all of that. But over 900 some odd potential people now know my health diagnoses. So clearly for me, I'm answering the question already. Yeah, I'm willing to share that. But that's not true for everyone. That's not the case for every single person. Especially when you want to get into a relationship and you may have some major health issues. And not everything is visible in terms of just looking at a person and being able to go, that person's unhealthy. No, a person may generally, based on their age, look relatively healthy. And a person who looks potentially unhealthy may, in fact, be healthy. So there's no way to always know when you just look at a person unless somebody has a physical abnormality. And that doesn't even necessarily mean a person is unhealthy because they have a physical abnormality, if you will. So the question of health is extremely important. We just go with physical health at this point. If a person is dealing with ongoing issues, let's say of blood clots or something of a very serious nature, they've had some health scares in terms of triple bypasses and clogged arteries and all of this kind of thing, and they're on the other side of it. They've had some major surgeries, heart surgeries and brain surgeries, and on and on and on and on. Even things like knee replacements, hip replacements. Do they have health histories in their families and they are vulnerable to it? If they had cancer that they've overcome and survived. Now, people tend to share those things, particularly if they're cancer, quote, survivors, unquote. They tend to want to share those things, particularly women want to share those things. Men, not necessarily as often. But if a person is single, wants to date, potentially wants to get married or get at least into a very serious long-term relationship, is it an issue of ethics if they feel like, well, I don't want to share my potential health history or circumstances in terms of health? That's the question, really. I mean, we don't have to have a long discussion in regards to this. That's the question. The question is if there is some prevailing medical circumstances, especially if you want to get married. No disrespect to those who may just want to be in a long-term dating situation, because you don't technically have a responsibility that would fall if they have children. If you don't get married, look, let's just talk like grown people. If you don't marry the person, you don't have any say in what happens to them in terms of burying them, in terms of what happens to them, pull the plug, anything. You don't get that. You got to marry to get that. So if you're single, you're dating, and you want to get married, men and women, is there any ethical concern if a person is feeling like, well, I'll just hold on to that until, I feel like we're close enough, and then we'll say something. And then it begs the question, what do you classify as close enough? What do you consider close enough to be? What are you thinking close enough is? Because, or do you mean emotionally attached close? Is that what you mean? that this person is at a point where I feel like they're invested, and once I tell them, well, I do have a bad heart, I've had some medical issues, and so, I'm going through some kind of therapy. I was in a major car accident, and I have some residual effects in terms of my back may go out, again, hip replacements, knee replacements, or actually I'm pending some major kind of surgery, but I'm still socializing because I refuse to let it get me down. And more than just surgery, no, I want to actually get into a relationship because I don't want to die single and all of this kind of thing. So is there any ethics there? Is there any ethical concern that there's some mandate in terms of ethics, in terms of a mandate to open up about those things and share those things with someone that you are, again, getting close to? But I told you I have a few areas I want to put out there before we start wrangling with this. Not just physical health. How about mental health? And this is one that I've had conversations with people about this. How about mental health? Is there any responsibility? Now we're getting a little tighter now. Most people might be, well, Gabe, I think you share that, You don't want somebody to just come into a situation and they don't know that you got a major health issue. But how about mental health? Now I want you to stay with me for a second. This is a little tight right here. And not, when I say mental health, I don't mean just in the moment, much like physical health. I mean, if there's been any previous history. How about, if at one point in your life you dealt with depression, maybe it was 10 years ago, and you took some very serious drugs and all those things. Is there any ethical responsibility to share with a person? Now, I'm not saying you got to tell everybody, but to share with a person who you're now getting to know very exclusively, and keep in mind, we're going to address that. At what point do you begin to say, this is a person that I'm talking to exclusively? Or to the point of thinking that this could be something? And is that information that I need to share so that they can have, they can make a choice for themselves that is broad enough and that is informed enough? What if you got schizophrenia in your family? What if you've got, people who in the history of your family who have dealt with major mental issues? Now, Gabe, why are you saying that? Because much like in the health department, if you have those kind of things, attention deficit disorder, some of you think that that's a small thing. As a person who suffers from it, it's not. I'm using me as a person. Now, even in situations where, watch this now, let me introduce this. What if you're dealing with a situation where you have not gone to the doctor? Because there's multiple millions of Americans who don't have health coverage, I'm being one of them. 30, 40 million Americans, or something like that, 20 million Americans don't have health coverage. So we're not going, let alone to get our bodies checked out. Well, Gabe, and everybody's always got a solution. Well, you can go call Healthy Families, and we keep forgetting that these programs do run out of resources. Bless your hearts, though. I appreciate always everybody. Oh, well, see, just go call this person and call this group. Have y'all been paying attention to the government? Not going into that. These programs do run out, by the way. They do run out of funding. They're funded, and they do run out of funding. And you got to jump through about 200 hoops. Anyway, not going there today. So that aside, it doesn't change the numbers. 20 million Americans without health coverage, period. So obviously those programs are not going to meet out the needs for 20 million Americans. So enough said, right? So the reality of it is, not only not going to get all the checkups and all of that kind of thing, but then what about mentally? for which even if a person has health coverage, it doesn't mean that it always covers mental health, which I would venture to say without statistics, this is just my opinion, my page, my opinion, is probably one of the bigger health concerns. I've said this to individuals just chatting. You might be sitting across from a gentleman or a lady who's undiagnosed bipolar, undiagnosed schizophrenic. If you're older individuals, you may be sitting across from somebody onset of dementia, and they have some of the symptoms. They seem absent-minded or whatever the case may be. You never know. You may be engaging someone who's got a mental health past history, but they are out there in the dating scene. They want to get into a relationship. And again, they may not be diagnosed by a doctor. But they, like a car that's ticking, right? So hey man, let me use your car real quick to drive down the street. Hey man, let me just let you know there's a knocking. I don't know what it is. I haven't gone to a mechanic yet. I haven't gone to I haven't gone to a car doctor yet. But there is a noise that started about 2 weeks ago. The car still runs. So if you want to drive it, cool. So just because you haven't gone and gotten an official diagnosis, you can tell if something ain't quite right under the hood or under the hood. You've been having nightmares for the last 3 weeks and you still going out on dates and you still just chatting it up and you still trying to get in a relationship and you didn't get any grief counseling when your big papa died and G mama died and when your dad passed away and your mama, you didn't get any kind of counseling whatsoever when last year you lost your job and you couldn't pay your rent and you recovered in a sense, you got a place to live, but you didn't get any kind of counseling. You didn't get any kind of something to help up here, and you're not acknowledging that depression, but you even said, I'm feeling a little depressed, but you didn't get any help for it. And now you think, I'm feeling better, so I'm good. And so you're out engaging and chatting it up. You didn't get any help for when that marriage fell apart of 20 years. You didn't get any help for the postpartum depression of having the baby, or whatever the case may be. You didn't get any help when you came back from the military and you went on 2 tours to Afghanistan and Iraq. You didn't get any help. And there's been a breaking in your mind. And I'm not saying any of that as in the derogatory sense. There was no counsel. There was no seeking some kind of intervention mentally, emotionally. Not just mentally, emotionally. You've had major crises happening in your life before the pandemic, let alone in the pandemic. You've been hanging on by a thread, but you're single, and especially in the last year and a half almost, you've been sitting around thinking, man, I can't do this by myself. So now you're out there on the dating scene, whether you're doing it on a website or you're chatting up with people, you meet face to face, and you're trying to get into a relationship, and you're not doing your due diligence to say something because you may not be officially diagnosed. But here's the thing, the question still remains. Is there any ethical responsibility? Maybe you suffered abuses. I don't want to keep giving examples, but maybe you suffered some kind of abuse, physical, sexual, or whatever, abuse when you were a child, and you just made it through. You just worked. You didn't get counsel. You just worked, and you just got through it. You just got through it. Not that you're better, not that you're okay, but you just got through it. You hustled through it. You put your head down. You didn't ask no questions, and you didn't let anybody ask you any questions. And here you are now thinking, you know what, I want to be in a relationship. I deserve a good man. I deserve a good woman. I'm a queen. I'm a king. And I blah, 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 blah. And you're throwing out all the mantras, you're throwing out all the phrases. You're posting all the memes about good men and good women and why I can't find one and all of that. Cool. You even might have one on the hook right now and you chit-chatting it up. But is there any responsibility to at some point tell that one on the hook, or any that you may be talking to whatever degree, hey, you know what, I've been through some traumas in my life. Is there any responsibility? One more area. And this one, might not, the first two, most people be like, okay, I got you. But this one, I'll probably get some kickback. Financial health. Just let this sink in. Especially in light of the pandemic. Especially in light of the effects and impacts it's had. You on unemployment, they've closed the company, they've gotten rid of the office. You're not working from home. You're unemployed, period. And now you're not just a month into this. You're 2 months. You're 4 months. You're 6 months. And the truth of the matter is you don't have a bunch of job prospects. Come on. You stressed out. But you have a person you've been talking to, man or woman, for a minute. Let's say you 6 months deep in unemployment, and you've only been talking to the person about a month, but you guys have talked regularly. I don't care if it's man or woman, what side you on. And I'm asking you, ma'am, I'm asking you, sir, is there any ethical responsibility to tell that person that your finances is not healthy? Now, the other ones are inside you. Mental, emotional, physical health. But your financial health, if it does not recover the way you keep thinking it's going to recover, well, Gabe, I'm not going to say nothing until, I see what happens. I see what happens. 6 months later, I'm seeing what happens. Hey, I feel you. I'm not here to run you down. But I'm here to ask the questions that nobody asks. I'm here to put it to us in a way that makes, I told you what these things are about, typically on Thursday, but I'm doing a special broadcast today to make us think about the things we don't like to think about. And that's why we find ourselves a lot of times single. It ain't because it ain't no good men and good women. Stop saying that crap. Because if you really believe there was no good man or no good woman, you would stop trying to date. You trying to date non-good men, non-good women? That's just stupid. Who does that? You're on the dating scene convinced that there's nobody worth dating, but you're on the dating scene. That means you're the one who, anyway, you get the point. So if you're on the dating scene, you're on the dating scene because you think that there's somebody out there eventually worth dating and potentially being in a relationship with. So it brings me back to my singular question, 3 different areas. Physical health, mental, emotional health, and I think the one that might be bigger than the other 2 is financial health. Financial health. Now, I've been transparent the whole time. I'm going to stay transparent. By definition, and I know y'all, unless you're into economics and all this kind of stuff, but there is a defined line of poverty. There's a defined line of poverty. And by definition, I am at or below that line of poverty. Now, I'm not living on the streets. So I'm not here to say, woe is me. I'm just simply telling you there is a defined line based on family size and all of the dynamics. Okay, a family of 2 living in da-da-da-da-da. And you got to make this much money to be above or below. Because of that very line, a line of distinction, as a teenager, we weren't allowed to work summer jobs because my parents made just enough to be above that line, because the summer jobs were for summer youth program, work program was for those who were below that line. So whether you feel comfortable or uncomfortable or not by me sharing my own situation, get over yourself because it's mine. The fact is, I am at or below that line without getting into the particulars. I am at or below that line. So when individuals have come at me or come to me and say, Gabe, what about a relationship? And I say, until I am in a better financial position, it's not going to happen. And I got other factors too, but until I'm in a better financial position, it's not going to happen. Well, a relationship isn't about money, but you got to understand it's not just about the money. It's not even just about a diagnosis per se when you go to the doctor or when you go to see a psychologist. It's about, watch this now, watch this. It's also about the ethic. It's about how a person is thinking about their life in light of their circumstance. You know me, I'm going to uncover it. I'm going to get underneath the thing. That's what I tell people to do. Get underneath it. See, what we don't want to do is deal with the truth of the matter, especially in a pandemic. There are people who are tired of being in their homes and they want to get out and date and blah, 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 blah. And they want to get into a relationship because, Gabe, I'm tired of being single. And this pandemic just really told me I just don't want to be single anymore. Okay. But don't you got some things you got to think about? Especially if you're 40 and up. Aren't there some things you got to consider? Because I have the sneaky suspicion some people are going to end up getting into a relationship during this pandemic, and then when it seems to be over and we're all back to regular life and ain't no more sitting on each other's couches, they're going to look at each other and go, now, why are you here again? Because we was in a pandemic? Exactly. I don't know you. You don't know me. So you have, for example, now this is off topic, but stay with me. For example, you have people who love to travel. And I don't mean just travel, drive down the street, drive to another city. No, I mean get on planes and fly to other countries. I mean passport travelers, which they haven't been doing for the last year and some change, right? So they're sitting around, they're in the local area, they're talking to people, they're single, they're chopping it up. Yeah, I can't wait to get back to traveling. Oh, yeah, cool. But they're not going anywhere right now, right? But as the airlines do their thing, as the passports get to heating up, going in them hands, and they start traveling again, if they talking to somebody who's local who doesn't like to travel, but they were, kind of using them to get through the pandemic. Yeah, I said it. What you think it's going to be like when that person is talking about, I'm off to Jamaica, I'm off to Cancun, I'm off to Montego Bay, I'm off to so-and-so and so. Hey, you coming with me? No. So when we're talking about being single and getting to dating environments, we got to have some conversation, people. We got to get real about some things. And I'm not talking about travel. Travel is frivolous to me. I'm talking about real, bona fide, life-altering, or at least potentially life-altering issues like health. And in particular, health in 3 areas: physical, emotional, financial. And I'm coming back to my question again. Is there any ethical responsibility, not only to yourself, but potentially if you're starting to see that relationship is starting to focus now, you're starting to get, and well past the pandemic. Let me not just have it where it's like, oh, just a pandemic. No, I mean in your lives as single men and women, in our lives as single men and women, we want to get into a relationship. Do we have a responsibility? Do we have an ethical responsibility, a moral responsibility to be open and honest and clear, to give that person, whoever we may be talking to, man or a woman, the opportunity to hear the information and make a choice about how they see you, the situation, and more importantly, themselves in light of those things? Is there any ethical? Notice, I'm not trying to answer it. I'm just putting it out there in a way to make us think about it. Because we still have to deal with, even if you say, yes, Gabe, yes. Yeah, but you still got to deal with the question of when. We'll get there in a second. But let me make sure my point is clear, especially with the financial situation. Maybe you are great at managing money. So from your perspective, pandemic just knocked you off. But you know you'll recover because you're good with money. Okay, I'm not really talking to you. You know who I'm talking to. I'm talking about those, whether it's a pandemic or not, money and you are a problem. I have a friend, tried to help them with their finances a couple of months ago now, a few months ago. And they make more than an average amount of money. They're not going, unless they get fired, they're going to be pretty good. I'm not obviously going to tell you what they make, but they're doing well. High 5 figures, is just put it to you that way. They're doing well. They don't have major overhead. They're doing well, right? Doing real well in the pocketbook. So having conversation with them, trying to help them with their finances, the person said to me, well, just talking to them about how to budget their money and some things, because they admitted that, Gabe, I'm not really good at it. But in the midst of talking about budgeting and putting the bills and things down, writing it down, I was writing it down as they were giving it to me. They made a comment to me. This person made a comment along the lines of, well, I hope I don't have to stop spending because I really like spending my money. I didn't say anything out my mouth, but I said some stuff in my head. Now, this is a female friend, and I thought to myself, if I was interested, I would have lost interest right now, right at that moment. Right in the moment that they said, well, I hope I get to keep spending. Now, I'm helping them with their finances because even though they're making high 5 figures, they're not doing well. This person is single, and I've been trying to talk to them about how, relationships and what to look at and all this kind of thing. Anyway, I'm not a matchmaker. Don't come at me like that. But I've been talking to them about how to work through some things that they've been through, other issues that I've already brought up, and how to get there, how to potentially get there. But when they said that, I was like, oh man, because this person is revealing that I am financially unhealthy, and technically that's mentally, but we won't go that route. That person is financially unhealthy, but they make so much money that they can't see it. They make enough money is coming in so constantly. Again, high 5 figures, pretty close to 6. They make so much money, and they got a couple of other outlets, financial outlets that's coming in. And so they make so much that they can't see how bad they are, how they're unhealthy financially. See, it's not just I'm going through a pandemic, I lost my job, but that person is not necessarily unhealthy financially. So, Gabe, you're not talking about debt. No, I'm not talking about debt. Statistically speaking, most Americans are in debt. And there's good debt and bad debt and all of that. I won't get into that. Talk to financial advisors, they'll help you with that. But most Americans, especially during the pandemic, are in some kind of financial hole. Why do you think they're giving out stimulus checks, people? People haven't been able to pay their rent for months. And stop all this nonsense about they're lazy and all this because I'm an essential worker. If y'all don't shut up with that crap, you don't know everybody's situation. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you judge because somebody's getting unemployment and the government decided to give them some extra unemployment? Well, Gabe, I'm an essential worker. So quit your damn job if you want to get you some money. Otherwise, shut up. You have no right to judge what people's situations are. You so happen to be in an industry where you get to keep working. They lost their jobs. And obviously, I'm a little ticked off about that because I know people who've lost their jobs. And when I hear some idiot just running off at the mouth and, oh, they get to sit at home. And because you just telling on yourself. You're telling on you. You don't know them. You don't know their circumstance. You don't know the psychological ramification of having a job, and because of a pandemic, suddenly you have no job no more. Oh, and you get a Dear John letter, don't come in because there's no more office. Oh, by the way, you don't have a job because the whole company is gone. The whole restaurant is gone. The whole industry is gone. Back to my topic. The reality of it is, I'm talking to those who don't just have debt. Listen, I'm talking to those who have debt before the pandemic, and they keep piling on that debt, and they keep adding on credit cards, and they keep making the same kind of financial decisions that have put them in debt before the pandemic. I'm talking about the one who I just had to have the house. I had to have the American dream. I had to have the car that was a high-end car that I couldn't afford to pay for. But because my friends, did I say that out loud? Because my friends are getting cars, I should get a car. Because my friends are buying houses, I should buy houses. Because my friends are flying to Montego and Cabo San Lucas and all of that, I should fly to Cabo San Lucas. Because my friends go out, and because my family love to get together and go on exotic vacations and spend bunches of money on clothes, I should be able to do that. And so I'm actually in a financial crisis, not just in the bank account, because again, my friend, her bank account is cool. No, I'm talking about in a financial crisis up here. That's unhealthy. Most of the divorces that I know of, not including my own, people are talking about financial struggles. People are talking about not working together financially. So I come right back to the same question. Is there an ethical responsibility to fess up about financial unhealth? Is there an ethical responsibility? So you're talking to this guy. He's terrible with money. And you know he's terrible with money, but he's spending it on you. I would flip it and go, ladies, is there some sense of responsibility to yourself to say, yeah, he's nice and he's sweet and he's handsome and he's so giving, but everything he's told me about his financial situation tells me he's unhealthy. And I got a solid budget. My bills get paid. Yeah, I may not have money pouring all out my pockets, out of my purse, but I'm solid financially. And is it worth dealing with someone who is in a financial crisis up in here? Is it worth it? Men, same thing. Stop complaining about gold diggers. If she's really that bad with money, what are you doing talking to her? If she's a gold digger, she's unhealthy financially because she has the wrong thinking. If he's a splurger and he just splurges without any consciousness about economic responsibility, don't you think then that that's the person that is unhealthy and you stay away from them? See, in this whole dating thing, everybody wants to talk about sex and all those things, but there are other subjects that tear marriages apart just like all the rest. And I believe unhealth is one of those major things that nobody wants to speak about, and then you're in a major relationship. Now, it's one thing if you're married. Now, look, this is not equal weights. If you're already married and a person gets diagnosed as bipolar or diagnosed as having a heart condition, or unfortunately you're already married and you realize how bad they are with money, hey, work with it. I say to you, work with it. Unless you just decide it's a deal breaker and you feel like somehow, some way they pull the wool over your eyes, hey, nothing I can do. I'm not talking to you if you're already married. That's why I said single and unhealthy. But to those of us who are single and to those of you who want to get into a relationship, are you having the kind of communication that will create the opportunity for that man or that woman that you're talking to come clean? To be open, to be transparent about their unhealthy life and lifestyle. Now, you don't even want me to get into excessive drinker. You don't want me to get into somebody who's constantly smoking cigarettes. You don't want me to get into, because that's not healthy. I don't give a rip what you say. They're smoking 2-3 packs a day. And what you think? They cool? You think they good? You think they're good? A person who's got to drink just to be able to sit and watch TV, because if they can't watch TV unless they're drinking, that's an alcoholic. Let me ask the question. Would you intentionally marry someone who is an alcoholic? Someone who is on drugs? Would you intentionally marry them? Would you get into a long-term dating relationship with someone with an unhealthy lifestyle? With someone who chooses to play hooky all the time, who seems to be quitting jobs every 5 days? When you have a problem with that person? More than likely. So then why would you not at least stop and consider, at least give some thought to the fact that maybe you are the person who has a real health crisis in your life. You were diagnosed. You did have open heart surgery, or whatever the case may be. You have dealt with cancer and you are in remission, and you're only a couple of years from that time. And I know, because of my father, who he had to go through several, I think a couple of years of going through checks and rechecks. And he had a reoccurrence. Of course, they caught it and he's good. But understand, now he's been married for 50 years. But what about those of us who are single? And we know we've had times of maybe we suffering from vertigo, or we're suffering from all kind of things, and we don't want to say nothing because we want to draw the person in and get them as close to us as we possibly can, and get them saying words like "I love you" and I miss you and I want to be with you. And then, oh, by the way, did I fail to mention that I was diagnosed with a bad heart valve and I'm on the list for surgery? Did I fail to mention that I could die because I've been having blood clots? Did I fail to mention that I've got all kind of medical history issues, and you might have to be sitting at the hospital with me, and I know we've only been talking for a couple of months, but I really care about you, and I hope you don't think that I pulled the wool over your eyes? That's a little rough, don't you think? Now, I've never been through that, but don't you think that's rough? Even if you have chronic illnesses. Hey, I get it. I was married to someone who has chronic illnesses. And I'm not here to bash those people. They have a desire to be in a relationship. I get it. But my question doesn't change. Even to those of you with whatever it is. Don't you have some sense of responsibility or ethics to at least say something at some point before you see this person is calling you every single night and they want to be in your company all the time? Don't you think you have to stop and go, hey, man, hey, woman, hold on. I appreciate you want to hang out. I like you too. It looks like we're getting serious. I'm not trying to say too much, but let me tell you, I suffer from fibro. I have a chronic back pain, a hip replacement. I'm due to get a hip replacement, and that's going to change my look. I'm still going to be myself, but I am going to have a hip replacement. Isn't there some sense of responsibility? Okay, most, like I said, can work with the physical health stuff, but how about the mental health? Isn't there some responsibility? Isn't there? I don't tell people about my family to embarrass my family, but I speak about mental health openly. I speak about it openly. I have an aunt who suffers from schizophrenia. I have people in my family who have dealt with major depression. Why? It's in my family. I've had people in my family who've dealt with alcoholism. So when people say, Gabe, why don't you drink? I don't tell them about the Bible, because the Bible does not prohibit drinking. It doesn't prohibit drinking, because Jesus drank. Get over yourself. The issue is not the drinking. The issue is the mentality. It's unhealthy. I chose to stay away from it. I'm 47 and ain't finna sniff it. I ain't finna get around it and try it at this point. I'm too old for all that nonsense. But the reality of it is, I made a decision before I was even grown that I wouldn't go there because of the effects it had on my family. And I've had people try to convince me otherwise. Leave me alone with that. The reality of it is, but I'm transparent about what's in my family because I need people to understand. I need people to recognize I am willing to be open and clear about the issues in my family. I don't speak of my father having cancer merely as a testimony, though thank God he's still around. No, I also speak of it because my brother got cancer at the same time, which means I am potentially vulnerable to the possibility. So if anybody wanted to be in a relationship with me, I need them to understand there's a possibility. Again, high blood pressure and hypertension. So when people see me a bit laid back, you have to understand why I'm a little laid back, because I have high blood pressure and hypertension. It's in my family on both sides, and I'm a sufferer. See, what we don't want to acknowledge is that some of these unhealthy areas does impact how we live now. Uh-oh, you didn't see that coming. You didn't see that coming, did you? See, if we're honest, that if we have financial unhealthy thinking, that's going to impact how we live, because we won't have the means when we need to be able to do what the relationship may be calling for. I don't want to be financially unhealthy when I get into a relationship. I want to be able to not just talk about going out to eat, but if my wife or my fiance or whatever the case may be, when the time comes, needs some tires on her car, I should be able to say, got you. Got him, and put the tires on the car. Or whatever the case may be. Or a copay when she's got to go to the doctor and she ain't got to be looking sideways and, oh, never mind, Gabe. Never mind, I got it. Never mind. How am I feel as a man? How am I feel? I can't do, yeah, I'm taking her out to eat, but I can't do nothing else. I can buy a burger, but I can't do anything significant when the time comes. She has something in her family and she's got to go on an emergency trip to see about a family member, and I can't do anything. Nothing. Come on, man. Now, look, I'm not unhealthy in my thinking about finances, but I have debt. Student loan in particular, so we're praying that they will wipe away student loans. Pray with me, oh Heavenly Father, because they wipe away student loans, my debt drops dramatically. I have a financial plan that I am following, and I promise you, I'm looking to be out of debt, especially with that help on the student loans. I'm looking to be out of debt sooner than later. But there are many people who have no financial plan. I don't care how much money they make, and they won't be out of debt potentially ever. But they are single, and they are on the dating scene, and they coming for you. I've had many, let's just be real, women complain about men. Could you pay my cell bill? Don't you got a job, bruh? Could you pay my, and look, everybody needs help from time to time. But when you talking to your girlfriend, sorry fellas, I got to do it. You talking to your girlfriend trying to get her ends to cover your cell bill, to cover your light bill, and she ain't burning up none of your electricity. I don't know, we call it light bill. Electricity, like the only thing we burn is lights. Electricity bill. Look, hey, there's some wonderful women out there who will do it. I get it. I'm not knocking that. Hey, love y'all. But understand, if you're just not economically healthy, now everybody goes through some crisis, and of course, pandemic has knocked everybody for a loop. I get it. Helpers one to another. I'm with it. I'm talking about a mentality that's unhealthy. I'm talking about sitting across from you, having a conversation, and as I listen to you, I'm realizing you've got some unhealthy situations in your life. And I come back to my question, and I'm ready to close. Is there an ethical responsibility? If you haven't gathered from my thinking, let me just answer point blank. I think as single people, I really think it's married people too, but especially for us who are single, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to one another to open up our mouths and to be honest. Now the question that I've been pushing out pushing out, let's deal with. When? Okay, you're like, okay, Gabe, I'm working with you, I'm rocking with you, man. But when? When do we say it? When do we bring it up? When do we talk? Because each interaction is different. And it's true. It's true. Everybody's situation is different. Maybe you having a long distance kind of communication. They live in another state or another city from you. They live hours away. And you've been talking to this person for a minute. And you talk all the time. And you don't really know if it's going to go anywhere. You don't really know. Or maybe they live close. And y'all, before the pandemic, you would go out together and do your thing, whatever. I don't want to get into all that. So every situation is different, right? Every circumstance is different. The question is, when do you speak up? Now I'm going to go completely another way. Watch this. I don't think it's even a matter of how close you are. I don't think this one is a matter of how close you are. Because we're not talking about some personal, private situation. We're talking about a health issue that is something that probably needs to be known with more than just the person you would like to be in a relationship with. If you go back to last year, I had this same discussion, but in regards to family, and I said, particularly those who are older, you need, if you like have grown children, for example, you need to tell your grown children your health issues. If you have any pending health issues, for example, that might cause some issue, with the pandemic and coronavirus at the time is what we based it on, that you need to speak up to your grown children. Now, obviously, your children or your child, your siblings or your parents, and you know what they can handle and not handle. I respect that. Obviously, do your thing. But even in this circumstance, if you know you have physical health issues, and you to me, it's a part of conversation. It's a natural part of conversation. It's not double dutch. No, you ask them their health circumstance because you should be concerned just for them as people. As a matter of fact, let me simplify this for you. When you're talking to people, getting to know them, what are you trying to get to know? What are you trying to get to know? Seriously, I have to do a whole broadcast on that. What in the world are people trying to get to know? I'm not going to go into it, but now it just hit me. I need to do a broadcast on that. When single people are talking to each other, particularly of the opposite sex, no disrespect to the other relationships, what are you trying to get to know in the first place? Aren't you, especially if you want to get in a relationship, aren't you trying to get to know the things about them that might jump up in the relationship and cause some problems? Aren't you trying to get to know the things about them that could sabotage your hope, your desire for a relationship? See, we're so worried about being in a position of judgment that we end up not getting to know anything, or the stuff we get to know is relatively frivolous and won't really make or break a relationship at all. And then you get married, and then you end up talking to somebody like me under the pastoral counsel level and talking about, oh, there were just so many things I didn't know. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? Because that was supposed to happen in the conversations. That was what you were supposed to be asking. And those are the things, and conscientiously and compassionately, but also determinately, purposefully, intentionally. Now, if you're a person who works out and you do all this kind of thing, and you're talking to a person who works out and that kind of thing, and you're like, oh, we're just so compatible, we both like to go to the gym. Okay, so their health may be cool, right? What I got to do with their mental health and their financial health? You love that they're gym rats. Okay, so you got that. You find a person who's stable mentally, emotionally, man, they've got it together. But they're morbidly obese. Yeah, I said it because it's a legitimate description. They're morbidly obese, which means they're not just slightly overweight. I'm actually slightly overweight for my age and my height. Oh, okay, don't give me that nonsense. I'm overweight. Trust me, my knees feel it. The reality of it is, but somebody is morbidly obese. And I see this stuff all the time. They're trying desperately not to really say it, or they just slap you in the face with it. But the ones who don't really want to say it, they just want people to love them for them. Your body is a part of... Stop this madness about I'm not who I am on the outside. Yes, you are. You are just as much who you are on the outside as you are on the inside. Your personality and your brilliant mind are not disconnected from your body. Because if it was, you would be dead by definition. Stop trying to act like you're not in the body you're in and that body is not a part of you. Because when you eat food and when you drink and when you lay down to sleep, that's because of your body. So your body has an effect on who you are. If you're sleeping all the time, your feelings of fatigue is connected to your body. If you are hapless and you don't have energy, that's connected to your body. Why are you trying to lie to yourself and get other people to join your lie that your body and your health don't matter? And then you're single and you have the audacity to go out on dates and try to convince them of your lie to yourself that you're perfectly fine. Oh, my last doctor visit, my doctor said I was fine. Did the doctor take your weight? Yeah. And did your doctor say, oh, no, you're fine. You're 5'3" and you're 350 pounds. Oh, you're good. That's a lie. Because I'm 6 feet, 215 pounds. And the last time I went to the doctor, they said you can stand to lose. I was 230 something. And the doctor said you can stand to lose 30 pounds. So how in the world you're okay and I wasn't? How? How is that possible? See, it's the lies we tell ourselves. It's what we tell ourselves. My knees are bad, and if I don't lose that weight, which I lost some weight, obviously, if I don't lose weight, I'll get knee replacements. That's going to have an impact on my interaction relationally. If I meet some woman who likes to go walking, yeah, I'll go walking for a minute. That's going to have an impact. So let me use me, because I know you're uncomfortable because I said something about weight and you don't want anybody to talk about weight. And yet we got more gyms probably than any nation in the world. And yet by definition, we're one of the worst in morbid obesity. Come on. I'm not on here to sugarcoat nothing. I'm not on here to play games. I'm not talking about anybody specifically. I'm not on here to play games with anybody. Your health matters. Do you want to be in your relationship for 5 minutes? For 2 years? Or until you die? Do you not know that if your body is unhealthy, it has a psychological effect on you? Do you not know that? Same thing with chain smoking or any of those things. So you look like you're physically fine, but you're chain smoking. You're spending, what an old coworker of mine, and I'm done, 20 years ago told me, Gabe, I spend $200 and some odd a month just on cigarettes. I was like, huh? What? yeah, on cigarettes. And she was also financially unhealthy. So she finally got a budget together, and in getting the budget together, she realized she was spending over $200 on cigarettes. On cigarettes. Which means she was also physically unhealthy because of the sheer amount of smoking. I'm not picking on cigarette smokers. I'm simply saying, is there, for those of us who are single and want to get into a relationship, is there an ethical responsibility to at least say, hey, I smoke regularly. I don't do any kind of physical exercise. I have no intentions of it. And if I'm unhealthy, I'm unhealthy. But would you like to date me? And then let the person be able to make a choice. Is there responsibility? I think yes. And I don't think you even make it just simply, well, once we're really, really close, then I'll tell the truth. I think you just tell the truth. I think you live that. You don't beat yourself down. Listen to me. You don't beat yourself down, but you are willing to tell the truth. You tell the truth. When you go on your job and you fill out a job application, they ask you your medical history. They ask you your legal history. We ain't going to even get into that today. That's a whole nother conversation. They ask you your mental history. So the job has a right to know, but somebody you are interested in, they don't get to find out till you're almost practically engaged. Is that what you're telling me? That they don't have a right to know until you're darn near ready to pop the question. Then, oh, by the way, did I fail to mention that I've had 3 mental breakdowns in my adult life? Did I fail to mention that I'm taking some extraordinarily powerful psyche-altering drugs? Did I fail to mention I smoke a carton a day? Did I fail to mention that I really can't even function unless I have 3 martinis and 2 tequila shots a day? Did I fail to mention that I am honestly terrible with money? Money controls me. I am in so much debt, and it's really not debt because of student loans or because I'm buying a house. It's because I have a shopping addiction. I have shopping or retail therapy, which is what we like to call shopping addiction. I have to be buying things when I feel depressed. I have all kind of health issues going on with me. I got mental, emotional health issues. I got sex addictions. I got all kinds of stuff. Look, but I would love to be in a relationship. I know that sounds crazy. And I'm done. And you may not do it quite like that. But I think that, now notice, we got to do our homework here. That as single individuals who want to get into a relationship, here's the distinction. If you're single and you're like, hey, I'm cool by myself, I guess do your thing. But to those who want to get into a relationship and you're serious about that, my opinion, I don't have anything behind me on this. I think you ought to tell the truth. I think you ought to, and you don't have to be, well, I'll just tell you right now, before you get my number, I am unhealthy because Gabe told me to say, no, don't do that. I'm thinking you just want to be conscientious, because don't you want that person to be forthright with you? Don't you want that person to give you the information you need to be able to make a concise, open, clear choice? Don't you? If they've been in broken relationships, if they're just one after another and they just don't know why it's not working, don't you want to know that this person might have an unhealthy lifestyle? Don't you want to know they have an unhealthy thinking? And you don't even have to judge them. It's not about you judging them like, oh my God, you're sick. No, you just leave them alone. You just leave them alone. You just say, you know what? I'm not really ready for that. I'm not up for that. I don't think I would be able to handle. Man, I think you're a really cool guy. You're a wonderful lady. But you know what? I don't know if I'm prepared to be able to be sitting in the doctor's office going through those extremely large emotional issues. You go to dialysis? Yeah, I'm in dialysis 3 times a week. Wow, okay. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for telling me. I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of emotional commitment, but I pray. Now, there may be somebody who is. So, but Gabe, I'm just going to be single. So when you say that, what you're saying is, I'm willing to fudge a little bit. I'm willing to even potentially lie if I have to, Gabe, to get into a relationship. Look, that's just not ethical. The implication of what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, is very serious. Because if you don't like what I'm saying and you're single, and Gabe, I don't have to tell nobody my business, you're who I'm talking about. You're the reason why I'm doing this. You're basically pretty much letting it be known you're going to hide it and lie till you can get your relationship. That's what you're really pretty much saying you're going to do. You're going to keep these things to yourself till you get the relationship you want, and then you're going to be scared every day, the closer you get, because eventually they're going to read the doctor's report that you've been dealing with some medical issue for the last 5 years and you didn't tell them. They're going to see your finances and they're going to see how bad you are, and they're going to have every right to divorce you. And you're going to be brokenhearted, and it's going to be your fault because you weren't ethical. If you think you have the right to be mad when somebody cheats on you, well, what is the underlying reality of being cheated on? Lied to. So if you don't want to be lied to by somebody who's cheating on you, well, then you need to come clean about your unhealthy issues and practices. I said it. Now let's all deal with it. You want to be single? You don't have any intentions of getting in a relationship because you don't want anybody to know that you got a heart valve issue. You don't want anybody to know that you're terrible with money. You don't want anybody to know that you've got some issues with being bipolar. Instead of telling someone who might really care for you, and they might even have a history with it themselves, and they might have sympathy, and they might love you and care for you despite it, because there are some really wonderful people who deal with bipolar issues. There are some really wonderful people with schizophrenia. There are some really wonderful people out there with other issues, health issues as well, even financial struggles, especially if they're willing to get help with those financial struggles. The only reason why I stepped back from my friend in terms of helping them with their finance is because they pretty much told me I have every intention to continue to spend money recklessly. Well, you can't help that person. I didn't stop being their friend, but and she wants to get into a relationship, and I'm like, woo, I hope he's good with money, and I hope he's really, really, really patient and forgiving, because man, he gonna want to do something economically. Oh, yeah, let's do that. And then what happened to the money? Oh, I bought this. I went here. I did this. Didn't we set a plan? I got a friend obviously don't call names. I got a friend right now who's married, been married for decades, and is struggling with that with his wife. And I know more people like that who are married. And trust me, they don't necessarily want to be unmarried, but they've thought about it, because those issues are that serious. Now, nothing I've said is without compassion and respect. I'm not talking about those people as evil people. If you got a heart valve issue, or I told you about my own high blood hypertension, there is no way I would drag somebody into a relationship with me, or trick or manipulate somebody into a relationship with me and not tell them, which I've just already told everybody, about my health issues. And they should be able to watch me do it. Diabetes, big one. And you don't eat healthy. Now the person's got to watch your insulin drop, and all of it, got to give you insulin shots, and they just met you. You've been talking for 3 months. Now they running you to the doctor, and they didn't even know. And then all of a sudden, oh, what's wrong? I've been calling. Oh, I didn't mention I am diabetic. Oh, you are? Oh my God, are you okay? Well, I usually manage it okay, but here lately, not so much. Could you take me to the doctor? Now you got your new relationship that you're not even sure is going to be, ongoing, and they're sitting there in the emergency room with you. And you looking crazy because you chose to keep that to yourself and didn't want to give them the information that would have allowed them to choose, hey, I'm not really up on giving people shots and all those kind of things. I actually had a friend tell me, and I got to get out of here, Gabe, you wouldn't give me my shot? I said, no, you don't just get shots from anybody randomly. What in the world is wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Well, Gabe, no, don't give me no well, Gabe nonsense. If I wanted to be in the medical field, I would have went into the medical field. I didn't go into the medical field. I didn't go into the medical field for a reason. I don't mind blood, but I didn't go into the medical field. So look, if you're single, you want to get into a relationship, please, ma'am, please, sir, Be upfront about your medical situations, about your mental emotional situations, about your economic situations, and give that person the information they need to be able to make a choice. Because if they find out later that you didn't tell them, they're going to not only be heartbroken, but rightfully so, they're going to be mad. And if you even try to guilt them, if you try to do anything like that, shame on you. All right, friends, this was our Thursday broadcast. On Saturday, we decided to take a little break again and pop on here unannounced. Didn't put out any notification like we normally do. I hope this has been beneficial. These talks are very tough. They sound, because I'm just an intense personality, charge it to my personality. But I'm very serious about what I'm saying. If any of these things are a benefit, please share them out. Get them on your page. Tag people onto them. Don't be bashful. Tag people on even certain points. If I make a point at minute 10, get them to that minute. Talk to them about that. These are great kind of videos, not just the ones I'm doing, but these are great talks to really spark conversation. If you didn't know how to broach this conversation with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and you guys are getting serious and you think he or she has some medical things, or maybe even some mental emotional situations going on, or financial things, hey, you don't know how to say it? Use this video. Use this video to get it in front of them. That will, and they'll maybe, well, why you want me to watch this? Well, just come watch this with me. Come watch this with me. Let's watch it together. Hey, be transparent yourself. Don't just be like, yeah, because I think you got some mental problems. Yeah, no. Don't do that. Don't do that. But this is a great tool to be able to broach the conversations that you may personally feel like you don't know how to get into, right? So do this, and I think it'll be a benefit. All right. Have a great rest of your weekend. Till Thursday. See you soon.